Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to the final edition of the Daredevil Born Again Season 1 review series. And today I'm going to be talking about Episode 9, the Season 1 finale, Straight to Hell, which I have just finished watching. And this episode was dark. It was hard-hitting, it was bloody, it was graphic in some parts, it was shocking, but above all else, this episode absolutely delivered. Now, I did have a couple of concerns as we were heading towards the season 1 finale. I was concerned about whether or not the finale was going to deliver because, as I said before previously, that there were a few episodes in the middle which were very heavy courtroom driven, which, don't get me wrong, those episodes were really good and they were very well executed. I couldn't help but feel that because of those episodes, the show was just more or less coasting along, that there wasn't really much going on. But I said before that they're obviously building up to something and building up to something very big, and we'll get some big payoffs. Now, did the season 1 finale deliver on those payoffs? No, not fully. I think the way season 1 ended, it pretty much said to us that we're not where we need to be yet, but we will get there. But make sure you come back because season 2 is going to be even better. That's all I could really say, really, because while I did enjoy the finale, it did deliver. There were a few little bits in there that I wouldn't necessarily say were bad. It was just like, okay, that's fair enough, but how will we get to those points? How does this shape season 2? But above all else, this was really good. And, I thought the season 1 finale delivered. It was great to see certain characters, one in particular who we hadn't seen since episode 1. So I'm really pleased about that. So we did get a couple of cool little surprises. And, you know, I feel that, you know, with season 1 in certain episodes, I wasn't entirely sure where we were going. But I think now, with the way episode 9 ended, I think we're more or less on our way to where we need to be, as I mentioned already. So, as always, I am going to give a quick recap of what's happened so far, and then after that, we're going to get straight into talking about the season 1 finale, episode 9, Straight to Hell. So, as we saw previously in episode 8, we saw the Fisks reconcile their marriage after Adam was shot by Vanessa, who was held prisoner by her husband, Wilson Fisk. And we also saw in this episode Point Dexter was released and he requested to meet with Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock more or less asked him, did Wilson Fisk have you hired to take out Foggy Nelson? Point Dexter didn't really say yes, but he didn't really say no either. And then Matt Murdock later found out that Vanessa was the one who ordered Foggy Nelson taken out. Point Dexter escaped from prison and he more or less broke into the Fisk's party and he was about to take out the Kingpin. And then Matt Murdock, no pun intended, took a bullet for the Kingpin. And that was pretty much how episode 8 ended. We saw Matt Murdock laying there with a bullet wound in a pool of blood with Heather holding him. And that's pretty much how we ended episode 8 with Matt Murdock fighting for his life after he was shot due to taking a bullet at the hands of Point Dexter, also known as Bullseye. So, with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 9, the season 1 finale, Straight to Hell. So, we start with a flashback that takes place 1 year ago, where we see Vanessa Fisk visits Point Dexter in prison and talks to him about the past FBI corruption scandal that allowed Wilson Fisk to be acquitted, and Vanessa offers Poindexter a chance to appeal his sentence and get freedom, making it very clear that her husband was not involved, and Poindexter guesses that she wants him to kill someone. Vanessa gives him his targets, Benny Carfaro and his lawyer, Foggy Nelson, as she cannot let the case they are involved in go to public, and Poindexter agrees and signs the paperwork. I am really glad that we got this because when Matt Murdock revealed that he knew that Vanessa was the one who ordered Foggy Nelson to be taken out, I was really hoping to get some form of a flashback or a scene explaining why she had this put together. So I'm really glad that we got this little payoff. I know I said already that there were a couple of payoffs we didn't fully get, but this was one of them that I'm really glad they addressed because I would have been quite annoyed if season 1 had ended without some form of explanation as to why Vanessa ordered Point Dexter to have Foggy Nelson taken out. So I'm really glad we got that. So we fast forward to the present, which takes place after the events of episode 8, where we see Matt Murdock is recovering from being shot by Point Dexter after taking the bullet and saving Wilson Fisk's life. Heather and Kristen visit him, and Murdoch tells Kristen that Vanessa was the one who ordered Foggy Nelson taken out, asking for paperwork related to his past case. And Kristen recalls how Nelson was celebrating an early win and how he was about to file a motion dismiss. Glenn chimes in and tells Murdoch to focus on his recovery, suggesting that they come back after he gets some rest. We see the Fisks are recovering from Point Dexter's attack, with Wilson telling Vanessa that he knew all along what she has done, and he says that her business with Red Hook Pier allowed her to move millions of dollars, but with him now working as the mayor, they would be moving billions and thriving. Fisk then meets with Phil Gallo and demands a city wide crackdown, not only on Point Dexter, but on all vigilantes. But Gallo argues that what Fisk wants goes against the founding principles of the NYPD, and Fisk is unbothered and orders to have New York City completely sealed off, while Sheila Rivera intervenes and says that although Poindexter's attack was a massive affront, they still needed a large scale threat to justify Fisk's order. Fisk then dismisses everyone and talks to Buck Cashman in private, who informs him that Murdoch is recovering in hospital. Even though Murdoch risked his life to save Fisk, he still tells Cashman that Murdoch would be more useful dead than alive. Typical Kingpin. Fisk considers Rivera's caution about him needing a palatable threat to control public relation, saying that their office has reached a tipping point. Fisk then tells Rivera that she must know who in their staff is loyal to the cause, ordering Rivera to send away those who are not. Rivera then gets approached by Gallo, who is furious that Fisk gutted the police, allowing the crime to spike, and now has the anti vigilante task force on the streets. Gallo claims that they cannot have Fisk as their mayor any longer and he needs to be stopped, counting on Rivera's support, and she agrees to help him. Oh boy, this ain't going to end well. Cashman makes his way to Metro General Hospital, preparing to finish off Murdoch, but then suddenly a massive blackout hits the city and Murdoch is successfully able to slip away. He returns to his apartment where he sees Frank Castle is waiting for him, all decked out in his Punisher attire, mentioning that someone asked him for a favour to keep Murdoch safe. We then see the AVTF raids Murdoch's apartment, by which this time Murdoch has already donned his Daredevil suit and makes an ambush on them. We then see Punisher kills several officers despite Daredevil's attempts to stop him, as the two of them fight off the AVTF, leaving Cole North as a survivor. Oh, this was great. This was seeing Punisher and Daredevil working together, taking out everyone. Classic stuff. Frank notices his Punisher insignia on one of the bullets and tells Daredevil about it, who now realizes that North was the one who killed Hector Alia, and North shows no remorse for standing up to his fellow officers and tells Daredevil to do what he's got to do. Punisher strongly suggests killing North, but Daredevil refuses and claims that he's not worth it, making Frank more angry with his half measures. As the two of them begin to argue, Daredevil spots a grenade and the two manage to get out the building before it explodes. As they're about to walk away, a car pulls up in front of him and it turns out to be none other than Karen Page. Excellent surprise. Love it. And they take Daredevil and Punisher to the Knickerbocker village. And Page says that she returned as soon as she heard about Poindexter's escape and asked Punisher for his help. Page notes how Fisk went after Murdoch, but not Daredevil specifically, and Murdoch claims that Nelson's death was a hit planned by his wife Vanessa. Page agrees to take Murdoch to look through old case files to see why, while Frank decides not to tag along and focuses on his own business. Page says that no matter how Castle tries to deny it, he is not the kind of person who does not care, which he does not reply. After Karen and Murdoch leave, Punisher quietly says, "Keep safe." As the power gets cut off in the whole city, it spirals into chaos and many citizens indulge in riots and looting, while the AVTF guns down whoever they want, calling them vigilantes afterwards. Daniel Blake and Cashman meet with the city council to present Fisk's Safer Streets initiative, implying that they are well aware of the council members' illegal activity and forcing them to comply. We then see Daredevil and Page check the storage for relevant case files, and Daredevil guesses that she and Castle might have something, judging by their heartbeats. Daredevil also stumbles across an old package from their Nelson and Murdoch days, recalling Nelson's avocados at Law Joke. Page then finds Nelson's files from that case and sees a document claiming that Red Hook Pier was a free port exempt from the jurisdiction of New York City. Daredevil realizes that the Fisks were interested in the pier to build their own city-state and make all of their crimes legal, and Nelson was killed for finding out on by accident. Punisher arrives to Red Hook Pier and mercifully massacres all of the ATVF officers. However, they manage to overwhelm and neutralize him. Connor Powell and the team take Punisher as their captive, with Powell saying that they all idolize him and want to join him in their ranks. Punisher replies that neither of them actually understand him, his loss, and how he sees the world, harshly rejecting Powell's offer. Powell replies that it was unfortunate and the ATVF beats him up, while Punisher is tied to a chair, unable to fight back. Despite regretting it straight after, Rivera provides Fisk with a recording of Gallo, making her an offer to unite and get Fisk out of the city. Fisk sends the ATVF to pick Gallo and take him to Red Hook Pier, presenting him in front of his former subordinates that joined Fisk. Fisk states that Gallo never cared about common police officers that risk their lives every day to keep the city safe, and Gallo says that he was right, and Fisk never stopped being the kingpin. Fisk responds by beating Gallo up, and with the last claim that they will save New York, Fisk crushes Gallo's head with his bare hands in front of the AVTF officers. Yuck. Daredevil and Page arrive at Red Hook Pier, finding it crawling with loads of AVTF officers, so Page dissuades Daredevil for charging in, as he would either die or end up killing someone. She claims that Fisk has all the power and they would not be able to stop him, to which Daredevil responds they can, but they would need an army. On the next morning, the power restores in the city, and Fisk meets with Glenn to offer her a position of a commissioner of mental health, to which she gladly accepts. Oh boy, this ain't going to go down well with Matt, for sure. Absolutely not. Fisk then addresses the people of New York, putting all the blame for what's transpired on masked vigilantes and claiming that Gallo chose to resign while facing rampant lawlessness. Fisk then enacts the Safer Streets initiative, effectively putting New York under a martial law, with the ATF maintaining the order while making criminalising all vigilante activity. At Josie's bar, Daredevil talks to Paige how he mistakenly thought he was immune to darkness, but actually allowed it to creep inside him. He admits that he wanted to kill Point Dexter, and that after Nelson died, he was uncertain of who he is anymore. Paige reassures Matt that Nelson believed in him and everything he stood for, whether it was light or darkness. Fisk brings Vanessa to his personal dungeon at Red Hook Pier, where he kept Jack Ducon and other associates as hostages, as well as the Punisher himself. McDuffie receives a document from Nelson's case that proves that Red Hook Pier was a free point, and Point Dexter takes shelter at an old wrecked apartment. Daredevil addresses his allies at Josie's bar, including Cherry, Angie, Kim, and several other police officers who chose to oppose Fisk. Daredevil states that while the city was broken and corrupt, they can reclaim it from Fisk if they work together, for they are the city without fear. And we also get a post credit scene where we see the Punisher manages to escape from his holding cell as he breaks one of the guard's arms after tricking him into shaking his hand. And that's how we end episode 9, the season 1 finale, Straight to Hell. And that wraps up my review. Overall, this was an excellent way to close out season 1. As I said, we didn't get full payoffs, but I'm glad we got one, which was showing us how Vanessa ordered Foggy Nelson taken out and hiring Point Dexter to do the job. So I'm really glad they addressed that. And it was cool to see the Punisher and Daredevil working together. But, I loved all of it. I think it was a great finale. Really helped set the stage for season 2. And there were a cool few surprises. It was great to see Karen Page back, who we hadn't seen since episode 1. But I loved it. It was really good to see Wilson Fisk back to his old Kingpin self. You name it, this finale had it all, and it's really got me pumped for season 2. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you guys think of the season 1 finale, episode 9, Straight to Hell? Did you enjoy it? What was your reaction to Vanessa being revealed as the one who hired Point Dexter to take out Foggy Nelson? Were you shocked? Were you happy that they finally addressed this? And also, how do you think Matt's going to react to his girlfriend now working for the Kingpin? Do you think he's going to not take too kind to this? What does this mean for their relationship? And also, now that Daredevil has rallied up his troops, what does this mean against the war against Mayor Fisk? And also, what about the Punisher? Where does he fit into all of this? And where will we see him next? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I hope you've enjoyed listening to me talking about all 9 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, Season 1 review series. And I will see all of you next time for Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing, especially with the way the Season 1 finale ended. It's going to be epic, and I'm looking forward to it. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.